Richard Power Sayeed is here. Very good morning to you.
Good morning,
Welcome to Morning Glory. Again, 6 fixes for Britain, it says on the front page of the Daily Mirror. Our first steps to make Britain work again for working people. The first 3 could have been written by Rishi Sunak, couldn't they?
I don't know what order they come in.
Well,
but,
OK, well, let's go through them.
Yeah.
1, deliver economic stability. Tick. Number 2, cut NHS waiting times. Tick. Number 3, launch a new border command, which is sort of his version of stopping the boats. That's the first 3. And then 4, set up Great British Energy. 5, crack down on antisocial behaviour. 6, recruit 6,500 new teachers.
Fabulous. Well, I'm glad that my ignorance has resulted in forcing the talkTV presenter to announce the Labour policies live on air.
No, listen, I've already read them out like 3 times because they're so ridiculously useless that, you know, I can't help but continue to repeat them.
I think that is a little bit unfair, but I'm sure the Labour Party press office will be pleased. Look, OK, that first one,
right,
deliver economic stability,
right,
there's a really big difference, right? Because you've got Rachel Reeves being frank and honest with the country and saying we're going to have to be pretty fiscally conservative, yeah, whereas you've got Jeremy Hunt, I mean, kind of lying to the country, actually, and saying, oh, we're gonna cut all of this spending in this department and that department with absolutely no detail in order to finance this and that,
right,
when everybody knows that he can't do that and that he's not expecting to do that because he's expecting not to be in the job.
Well, they did find
that's
some
a really
money,
big difference.
But they did
really
find some money, did they not, to push more money into the defence budget? So, I mean, they have done that.
But that's exactly the point. The more money for defence, which Labour has said we want to do when we can finance it, yeah, Jeremy Hunt created these magical, fictional cuts, which he's not said how he's going to do them, he's just said they're going to happen.
Right.
Basically, what he means is someone else is going to do it because I'm not going to be in the job in 6 months.
But do you know what? I don't think people care about whether there's money for things or not, because everybody knows that they can find money whenever they need to find money. We saw that during COVID. They found billions and billions of pounds for furlough, which is one of the reasons why we are where we are economically. And in the end, we know that whatever Prime Minister happens to be sitting in Downing Street, whether it be Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Reform, whatever it is, they'll just make some money. They'll just, you know, quantitatively ease it, or they'll go, oh, here's another 5 billion I've found under the mattress.
Well, I think that's, I mean, I think you're describing a really interesting thing that's been happening over the last couple of decades because of low interest rates.
Yeah.
And Rachel Reeves's point is we are leaving that historical era for all sorts of reasons, but, like, you know, we are going to have really sticky high inflation, not because of anything that actually a British government, well, other than Liz Truss, has done, but rather because of Putin, because of climate change.
Yeah.
Like, that's with us for here to stay. And so you've got to have these, like, these clever tricks in terms of policy for making people's lives better, but doing it in inexpensive ways.
So,
for instance, well, let me say, can I give an example? I think a really impressive one from Rachel Reeves is let's force local councils to encourage private house building in their areas. No more NIMBYism.
Right.
And the clever trick to do it is you say to councils, you've got to come up with the plan for X thousand new homes in your area, and if you don't, we'll enforce it on you. We'll impose it. It's a really good way of forcing councils into
it might be if it works. Again, if it works. Here's the 3 words, though. Deliver economic stability. Easy to say. I can say it. You can put the words around the other way if you want. Stability, economic, deliver. Or you could do economic, deliver, stability. Anything you like. It means nothing, does it? It doesn't mean anything.
Well, but I think it does when you say we've got this clever way of getting housing development. No, OK, it's not literally on that press release, but it has already been announced as a way of stimulating growth. Another one, you know, you were talking about, like, differences between Tories and Labour. Tories' big headline way of dealing with small boats is this gimmicky Rwanda plan, which I don't know anyone who actually thinks that's going to work. Labour is saying, you know what, it's going to cost a bit, but we're going to hire the new officials to process all of these applications so that you've no longer got people sitting in B&Bs
but what are they going to do with them?
Let me finish.
No, I'm not letting you finish. No, because I keep letting you finish and you keep going on and on and on talking absolute cobblers. Here's the point. Once they bring them to this country and then they process them and then they fail the asylum claim, what happens then? You know what happens then? They'll try again, and then they'll try again, and they won't leave the country because nobody wants to deport them.
I actually don't think that's true. I think a very significant number of failed applications do get successfully deported. And that's
no, they don't. We've deported hardly anybody. Nobody's been deported.
No, but we're not processing the applications. That's the whole point.
No, but the people who have failed in their applications don't get deported anyway. They stay here because there is no purposeful way to do so.
I accept that there is a problem with that happening sometimes. I don't think it's all the time. I think that's just
how many people do you think we've deported in the last 3 months? Do you remember when Lee Anderson asked the chiefs of the Home Office? They didn't know.
No, but that's because we haven't been processing the applications. You've got to process the applications, otherwise there are no failures. Therefore, you can't deport them.
There are people who fail the applications, and we know that they then try again, and we know that some of them have tried and been successful in the third application because they've become Christians or something ridiculous, you know, or they've committed a sex crime and they can't be sent back to their place of origin because they might be persecuted. There is literally no way.
You are talking about quite a small number there, and I think it's really important to remember that the processing is like incredibly thorough, and this is me praising a Conservative Home Office here, so you know you can believe me if I'm saying it.
It's a neutral Home Office, isn't it? Surely it's the Home Office. They're civil servants. Come on.
You look at the press releases they put out; they seem pretty conservative to me.
Well, why are they filing a lawsuit against the government then?
Point is, we have got to properly fund the processing,
right?
And Labour's the only party that's saying they're going to do that. We're going to hire these people so that we can get rid of the backlog, so that you've no longer got people in B&Bs, and instead they can either get deported or they can get a job in this country.
All right, here's 4 words. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. Launch a new border command. That doesn't say any of that. I mean, you're being very eloquent in explaining what it is that Labour are going to do. But let's go around the other way with this border command. Launch a new, or a new border launch command.
I feel like you're reading out avant-garde poetry,
word
Mike.
salad. Yeah, well, we can do a haiku if you want of Labour's new plan. But it's ridiculous. Let's do the next one. Set up Great British Energy. How's that going to work?
Okay, so Great British Energy is the publicly owned energy company, and the great thing about
it doesn't exist yet, does it?
Well, this is the whole point. You're going to do it. So the stuff that's here is the stuff that you can start doing pretty much as soon as you enter government.
Who's going to be in charge of it?
So it's going to be an independent body, so Whitehall won't be able to tell it what to do.
Will it have a CEO?
I assume so.
Who's going to be the CEO of Great British Energy?
We don't know that, but let me tell you...
Dale Vince?
Can I explain what it is? No, I'm sure it will not be. I
hope not.
I feel like I can guarantee you it will not be Dale Vince, however entertaining that would be. Look, the great thing about Great British Energy, right, is that at the moment we've got this really annoying thing where renewable energy is incredibly cheap to make, but it's artificially, by government regulation, made more expensive by the time it gets to us.
Yes, because
really
we're paying all sorts of subsidies for it, right?
No, actually, it's because you've got... So they would say, the government would say, you've got to make renewable energy profitable for the people who make it, so therefore you've got to artificially pretend it's more expensive.
Why do we have to do that?
It's very annoying. It's this government's idea. But if you've got the government making the renewable energy itself, then it doesn't need to artificially make it more expensive, so that when it gets to you and me and turning on our kettles, it's cheap.
So it's going to be cheap energy.
So this is the way of...
How cheap is it going to be?
I cannot tell you exactly. It'll be cheaper than it currently is, which means our bills go down.
Really?
Energy security for this country.
How quickly will it be set up? How soon will this all happen, though? Surely they've got to buy out the energy companies that are currently operating in the private sector, aren't they?
So the
point... We're just going to ban them?
No. They're going to continue to exist.
Right.
But we're going to add to that this government-owned but arm's length, independent.
So I can opt to buy my energy from Great British Energy or Scottish Power, say.
No. So this is further up the process. So
the supply chain.
Thank you very much. You're better than me at this stuff.
Yeah, I'm good.
This is the producer rather than the supplier. So you're still getting.
So they're going to say Scottish Power are going to buy energy from Great British Energy.
Exactly, and that they'll be.
Has
getting
anyone
it
told
cheap.
them that yet?
Yes,
Why?
I believe so. I mean, they're happy about it because the thing that is most expensive for them, the product that they're buying from the wholesaler, is going to become cheaper, right? So,
but then that doesn't mean they're going to pass it on to us. I mean, I don't really have any great faith in the energy companies doing us a favour. Do you?
I think, to be fair, Ofgem is fairly good.
Come off it. Ofgem's useless. Ofgem is completely useless. All it does is protect the producers of energy rather than the customers.
I mean, I'm hoping very much their regulations are going to be changed in order to force.
So again, I'm sorry, none of this says any of this. All it says set up Great British Energy. But I'm going to do it again. British Great Set Up Energy.
Cheap energy protects you from Putin's wars.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It really doesn't.
It really.
Okay,
I feel like I've explained quite in detail
you're doing
how
a great job of explaining something that so far doesn't exist and so far has not been
there isn't a Labour government. You've got to vote Labour, Mike. I'm sure
you can't just make a list and go, "This is what we're going to do."
That is literally what you're supposed to do.
Really?
It's called a pledge card.
I'd rather see one rather than 5 or 6 measures, right, which is actually explainable, like deliver economic stability. He hasn't explained it.
So since
is he going to be appearing anywhere today to explain all this?
He is. He's going to be in Essex.
Is he?
And he's going to be giving a little speech. And we have heard that there's going to be a special guest.
Oh, really?
This was sort of a rumour, or you know, a Labour source said it to Aubrey Allegretti, political correspondent at the Times, who's upstairs.
A very good man. Downstairs.
Downstairs.
We're at the top of the tower here.
Of course we are. Most important place.
Everybody else is downstairs. But yeah. So yesterday we heard all sorts of rumours that people were going to. Caroline Noakes' name came up. Loads of other people who were going to walk across the floor as the sort of regular Wednesday. You know, I'm leaving the Tories and join Labour. Didn't happen. So
well, the voters are doing it, so why shouldn't the MPs? You know. So what we've heard today is, I mean, this is so much a rumour. Absolutely might not happen. But so Georgia Harrison, she was on Love Island. Then she's received a lot of praise and very impressively been campaigning against revenge porn. If she did end up being the candidate in one of our Essex
so she might be an MP candidate.
Well, this is the idea.
Okay.
We heard this from Harry Cole, who also of this building.
Okay.
You know, if she did end up being a candidate, then she would definitely be one of the few people who'd done a Laura Kuenssberg interview before becoming an MP candidate. And, I mean, she'd be amazing, but I have no idea if it's going to happen. But I think in The Sun they'd said a few months ago that she was having conversations about this, so that's where the rumour comes from.
Okay. So we'll look forward to some kind of event in Essex. We haven't even managed to get to the last two because we're about to run out of time. I want to talk to you about Pat McFadden, the story of the Telegraph today, about a terrible misuse of what used to be that ridiculous expensive system. It goes all the way back to sort of 2006. The allegation is that he had a house in his own constituency which he used to charge the mortgage interest on, which you could do. It was all absolutely above board. There's nothing wrong with it. But it looks a bit sort of wrong, doesn't it? Because he apparently, when they changed the system after the expenses scandal and said you can no longer charge, you can no longer claim mortgage interest, you can only claim rent, he then rents a place right next door to where he lives, rents it and charges the rent to the taxpayer and then rents out his own place. It just doesn't really look great. He's supposed to be the safe pair of hands at Labour, isn't he?
Well, look, his point that he would say is that no one's disputing that he's always complied with the rules.
Yeah.
And the main thing I think he would say is he was in negative equity for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so
so were lots of other people. They didn't charge it to the taxpayer.
So, but when you're an MP and you've got to have 2 houses, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, but he had 3 houses because then he rented a new one. You know, right? Well, so now he's got 3 houses that we're paying for. He's taken 40,000 quid out of the taxpayer. I think it's wrong.
So if
morally wrong.
If you're forced by your job to have multiple places and you're in negative equity.
Well, you're not. You're not forced to have multiple places. You're forced to live in London, which you can either buy a place if you wish, which most of them did, and then you can declare that to be your second home, and then you can claim the mortgage on it. He didn't do that. He was claiming the mortgage on his first home, which a lot of them did, as Jackie Smith did, as you know, sort of flip-flop backs and forwards, and they all did it. The Tories were at it as well. I just think it's not a very good look.
I mean, look,
there's nothing wrong with admitting you got it wrong.
Well,
you can do that. Come on.
I agree that you definitely can do that. What I would say is that, like, it's a rubbish system.
It is.
And
they shouldn't have taken advantage of it, is my view.
But it created really bad incentives, and it still does, quite frankly.
I think so. Absolutely right. Well, very good to see you, Richard. I did a sterling job of standing up to my inquisition on the great 6-point plan of Keir Starmer. I'm just going to jumble up the words as well. And also, by the way, 6,500 teachers. That's not going to really make any difference. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of schools in this country, aren't there?
I think the whole point is that Labour aren't saying we're going to suddenly make everything perfect. They're saying we can hit the ground running by doing this quite quickly. 6,500 teachers in 1 year of new recruitment, but then hopefully more the year after that.
OK, we shall see. Richard Power Sayeed, thank you very much indeed. We'll look forward to Keir Starmer appearing somewhere in Essex, possibly with somebody from Love Island, possibly not, possibly with Pat McFadden if he manages to get out of one of his 3 houses. We'll see you after this. I'm Mike Graham.